looking at one metric alone is overrated.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
And looking at the whole thing is underrated.
Okay. Yes.
All right, guys, we're back. We're back with an episode number 11 officially.
11. All right, number 11.
We'll have to say, we had adversity this morning.
We had adversity, bro.
But guess what? We're committed to our fans, to our 200 viewers from our last episode. We were committed to you to bring you the best of the best when it comes to baseball. And we're back at it again. What's up, guys?
How we doing? Yeah, I mean, I think we were throwing a little bit of a curveball, but I mean, this game's all about adjustments, so we're making adjustments and moving on the fly.
Have you heard of? You're too funny, bro. Have you heard of the Double Dragon?
I have not.
We have gone through the Double Dragon today.
This one?
The Double Dragon.
Right?
Oh, okay.
That pitch, it goes up, it goes down under the earth, and then comes back up. And then skull strike. That's what we got thrown today earlier.
Double Dragon right there, brother.
Hey, we followed it off, and now we're fighting back into the at bat. But guys, today's topic: overrated and underrated things in baseball. What you guys got?
I mean, I'll start this off. We were kind of throwing ideas before, obviously. We hopped on here, but I think the biggest thing is we kind of alluded to it a little bit. I think for me personally, it's the art of pitching, right? Like the actual stuff that goes into, like, obviously the scouting reports, and everything is all velocity rated and or looked at, to where for me there's still an art of pitching, right? Like, you still have to. There's still a human aspect in a sense of, does velocity help? Absolutely. But does knowing how to pitch help also? For sure. Because at the end of the day, before this generation had all this access to, the edger, the TrackMans, the radar feeding. I mean, radar guns have been around forever, but actually watching the game and watching a hitter, like I tell a lot of my guys is, especially if you're a starter, I was a starter for the majority of my career, that, my biggest day to watch was the day before I pitched, right? Regardless if it was a lefty or righty, but it was like, hey, what is this guy doing in the first inning compared to 5th, 6th, 7th inning when there's guys on base, or, you're getting fatigued, stuff like that. Hey, what is a hitter doing? Like, is he stepping in the box? Is he stepping out? Is he flying open? Is he cheating to a certain pitch? Like, I think that aspect of, like, pitching has been lost because, everyone's like, oh, well, I got 95 in my back pocket, I can just throw it by. No, 95 gets hit easily. 100 gets hit easily, right? Like, there still has to be a human aspect of, hey, you got to throw the ball and hit the ball. So I think, for me, I think a lot of guys don't understand of, like, hey, what is this hitter actually doing? Like, where's he at in the box? Like, first at bat, is he on the dish because, I'm left-handed, he's trying to go the opposite way? Well, then I beat him in. So then second at bat, does he scoop back to where he can now get to that inside heater, stuff like that. So I think for me, the biggest one of the underrated things is the art of pitching.
The art of pitching. And I think there's always a swing, and this is why we're having this podcast too about overrated, underrated things. There's always a swing of things.
Yep.
Where there was a moment in the history of the game where pitchability was, I say, rightly rated, but if we've gone to the extreme side of velocity, where pitchability is underrated.
Yep.
Where, like, you see a lot of guys in college have really good careers, they pitch well, they don't wipe you out with stuff like 95, 96, they're 91, 92 with good stuff, and they get outs, and they don't get an opportunity to play at the next level simply because the game has switched to the other spectrum. And then you see it in the minor leagues where guys like, oh, this guy throws 100, but then he walks a house and his ERA is 9. So you're like, all right, like, you got to find kind of a middle ground. So pitchability comes back to being, actually rated what it should be, right? Evenly rated, yeah. So.
Yeah, I think the command, right? The command. I mean, the first thing that just popped in my head was, like, you look at Greg Maddux, right? They called him the professor for a reason. He read your swing. He called his own pitch. I don't know if anyone's watched that documentary, but, like, there's times that Greg Maddux, like, a certain signal that he would tell the catcher automatically. Like, when he caught the ball back, he was telling the catcher what he was throwing, because he was reading what the hitters were doing. I know, for instance, on the documentary, one thing that stood out is like he talked about facing Jeff Bagwell, and he gave up a home run to Jeff Bagwell pretty much on purpose because he knew he was going to face him later on in the year in the playoffs. And then because he had faced him 3 months prior, Jeff Bagwell all he can think about is the last time he faced Greg Maddux is a homer he hit. Greg Maddux set him up, punched him out in a big situation, right? Like, or you think of a guy that was like even Jamie Moyer. Jamie Moyer played for 20 plus years, throwing 85 or probably even slower, but he knew how to pitch, right? And I think so many times, like, and we've talked about this numerous times, that like you might have this really sick sweeper or this really big breaking ball, but if you can't command it in the zone, shit don't matter, right? Because like you could have these godly numbers of it, but if you don't know how to command the zone, like I always pitch to the quadrants, right? There's 4 quadrants, up, down, east, west, whatever. But like, if you can command the baseball in the zone, you can dictate what happens in the at bat. Now, you throw a changeup down below the zone, guy ass out, punches over second base. Hey, tip your cap, because his job is still to hit the baseball as well. Like, there's a reason why there's only been so many perfect games and no hitters and stuff like that. But I think understanding how to command the baseball and the art of pitching and pitchability is definitely underrated.
A good example that you mentioned a bunch of OGs there, but a good example for the younger guys nowadays, like just growing up watching Kershaw.
Oh,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The guy's always been like 1 or 2. You never see Kershaw like 95 plus. He's always had that big curve, like a bunch of pitches, just knows how to pitch, just command the fastball, knows when to use it, how to use it. The guy's over 3,000 strikeouts, like Hall of Famer. So just speaks to how important pitchability is and how that has been lost a little bit as recent years. But things that you think guys are overrated nowadays.
Well, movement, and he said, throwing strikes and movement. Well, you need the movement, but like Nico said, if you can throw for strikes, you're probably overrated, So you gotta, if you have a sweeper that moves, 20 inches horizontal, and you can throw it for a strike, you rather go down to 15, 16, and be able to get people out, because hitting is hard. And I feel like as pitchers, we give credit to the hitters, and we're trying to be more nasty here as the times go by, and we're trying to throw harder and harder. And like Nico said, the art of pitching just going away, and the main focus when people come and trade, I want to throw harder. I want to have a big sweep. I want to have nasty pitches, but then we forget about
kind of over obsessing with pitch movements, kind of being overrated. Makes sense. Like, I mean, I think a good example is, I'm trying to throw my splitter and I want to make it way too nasty, but I can't throw for a strike, so it's worthless. So sometimes it's better to have an okay splitter that you can command, and I'm like, hey, I want to put it like low and away to a lefty. I could do that, even though it's not like a great pitch profile wise. It's going to be effective to a certain degree if I use it well, even though it's not the nastiest one. I think guys go into like, I have to make this pitch really, really nasty
every time.
It's like, well, like, yes, but if it comes at the cost of you not being able to control the pitch, then it's worth nothing. So over obsessing over pitch shapes and trying to make everything super nasty at the cost of command and being able to use it, I think it's overrated.
So like when you said that, it's also like the purpose of the pitch. Because if you think the pitch is gonna swing and miss, you probably want it to be nastier. Your split finger probably to get people ground balls and stuff like that. So if you have a pitch that this is my pitch just to get people ground outs, you don't have to be. It has to be nasty. Have to be low in the zone maybe and stuff like that. So it's just like knowing what's the purpose of the pitch. Like if it's a strikeout pitch, of course you want it to be nasty. If it's not, just execute it and it will be fine.
Yeah, I think both of you guys have just every time you guys, the fun thing about doing this, and every time we all collaborate and we talk about stuff, like stuff automatically pops in my head, and I love doing this with you guys because it's like, for instance, like we didn't know what we were going to talk about, and then it was like, all right, let's go overrated, underrated. But like alluding to what you both just said, it is so unique, because what people don't realize, and we talk about like pitch being nasty. You said like, let's say the count's 1-1, right? And you throw that nasty sweeper, curveball, whatever, guy swings and miss. Where everyone screws up is they try to make the pitch nastier than the one they just threw, and the guy swung and missed. So then now it's like, oh shit, I'm gonna make him look even stupider, right? So then you compensate even more. You're trying to do more to make it look even more deceptive or better, when it's like, dude, you just showed the pitch that was good enough for him to swing and miss.
Yeah.
Don't change nothing. And so many times I watch guys to where, like what Welly said, if a guy throws the 15-inch horizontal sweeper, guy swings and miss, but because it wasn't the 20, the guy goes, oh, let me make the 21. So what happens? The guy flies open more, boom, backs up, throws it middle, homer, right? Like
The guy happened to me a lot of times.
Right. Like John, like when we were doing your last live, all we did was like, hey, let's simplify this.
Yes.
Let's step off the throttle a little bit instead of trying to make it the nasty one because we want it to be nasty. Let's step back off the throttle and actually stay within ourselves and execute the pitch, and look what happened. I mean, you're able to figure it out within 3 pitches, right? And I think so many times guys try to make things nastier when you don't have to. If you stay within yourself, good things are going to happen, right? And I think that's like both of you guys alluded to that, to where it's like you have a good pitch already, a part of your arsenal. Do not try to make it even nastier just because you made the guy look really stupid, you know?
Hey, going on the same realm of, pitch shaves and having everything nasty, some guys want to have 5-6 different pitches that are all nasty, and that is so hard to do. That is so hard to do. I believe that when you're a younger guy in college, find a way to get 2 pitches to be your bread and butter. Like you could close your eyes, these are my 2 bread and butter, like my pitch shapes are good on this one, I could command it the way I want to, and then you work on others knowing that they're not going to be great, but they're going to help your other ones out. But just understand, like, if you want to have 5 pitches or 6 that are all nasty with all good stuff, it's like that's going to take a lot of years to perfect. And you see guys in the big leagues with 5-6 years of service time, they're still kind of trying to perfect a certain pitch. Like, I remember Dylan Cease this year added a changeup because his changeup was wanky, and he's been dominant for a lot of years in the big leagues, but he's just added a changeup now, and he uses every now and then. It's not perfect, but it helps him a little bit more with other pitches.
Sets everything up.
Exactly. So it's like, understand, like, having nasty stuff and having a lot of nasty stuff is going to take more time. So if you over obsess early about that stuff, you're going to kind of like lose some of the pitchability that we talked earlier. That's really important as well.
Going back into like what you said, when you add a lot of different pitches, the release point change. And the feel of the other pitches change. Like, to me, when I throw too many sweepers, when I go to the fastball, I yank it. I'm like, I cannot throw it for a strike. My life at Live B, I couldn't throw one fastball. I threw one. Well, sweepers and sliders. Every time I throw a fastball, yank. Every time I throw a fastball, yank. I'm like, what the hell is going on? But it's just getting you just that feel supinating the whole time. When I go to the fastball, I just say with that same feel. So you might having 5 different pitches: splitter, cutter, changeup, fastball, curveball, and then you have to be able to play the game, throw strikes, and adjust. To me, that's insane.
I think, to me, like when we were talking about topics, I think that's why sometimes pitch design is overrated. Because this younger generation sees all the content that is put out, sees all this stuff like, oh, here's all you have to do to throw a nasty sweeper. But we talk about all these big leaguers that have 5, 6, 7 different pitches. That is a work in progress, even after they have like thrown, like Paul Skeens added a few pitches this offseason, right? He's able to do that because he understands what his body is supposed to be doing in his delivery, right? First thing I think of is Yu Darvish. Yu Darvish has 12 pitches. If you ever watch videos when the guy posts, like, he's constantly working on stuff. It's not like he's like, hey, I'm going to try to throw this 69-mile-an-hour curveball. Like, no, he actually practices what he preaches. And like, I think that's why sometimes too is like, I really like watching stuff Pitching Ninja puts out, because like he'll talk to guys, during like the interviews and the podcast that he does with them, and it's like, I wanted to add this to help make my other stuff even better, right? It's not like, hey, I'm adding this new pitch just to make myself even better. It's like, I'm adding this pitch because like I noticed something during last year or right now that like, hey, if I just add a sinker, whether the metrics are good or not, but it allows me to be able to throw into the same side hitter, it then allows my good shit to play even better to the same side hitters, right? So it's like, I think so many guys with this generation struggle because it's like, and why I say it's overrated is because they want to add a pitch in their arsenal when they don't even have 1 or 2 pitches that they can actually command and trust to help them execute an at bat.
Yeah, like you have 5 good pitches that have good shape, so you can't command any of them. You have nothing.
I'd rather have 2 to 3 above average pitches than have 5 or 6 average, below average pitches, because you know that you can't. Like if you have 1 to 2, you know what you can always go to.
You know, I was watching Kirby Yates the other day.
Mm-hmm.
He has 2 pitches.
Yep.
A 4-seam and a splitter. That's it. He doesn't have anything that breaks to the other side. He's been good for a long time.
Yes.
I mean, it's like Ellen Diaz.
Yeah.
Fastballs and sliders. That's it. You know.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So, talking about metrics, our metrics fall more into the overrated side of things or underrated? Because when you say any metric, you know, more of like horizontal, you know, vertical, you know, VA, HAA. Because when you say you maybe have a shitty sinker, but that's just a setup for your other pitches. You know what I mean? So I feel like now we have metrics and we have all these things, people are focusing more on coming to tread and, let me see how much my fastball is moving, or the ride, or let me see how much the sweeper is moving. But you forget about like the execution, you know.
I have 2 takes on this one. I think looking at one metric alone is overrated.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
And looking at the whole thing is underrated.
Yes. Because the arsenal has to play off of the fastball.
Exactly. So sometimes you might look, for example, let's say a low release slot guy has a sinker. And you're like, on paper, if you look at vertical break and horizontal break, it might look good. But if the approach angle or the horizontal approach angle isn't good, then the pitch is actually good. So if you're over obsessed about vertical and horizontal only, breaks only on the pitch, not looking at the release height, extension, and all those things, you might be telling a guy, you have a good pitch, when in reality, it doesn't perform as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Same thing when you see guys who have like dead zone fastballs, but their vertical approach angle is deceptive, right? And where they're thrown in the zone, that is underrated. So I was saying, like, it depends what you're looking at, and like just looking at one metric alone is overrated, but looking at the whole picture is underrated. Like, guys don't spend the time of like, let me look at everything and let me see if this pitch can actually perform at the highest level.
And I think that is so valuable, because like if we, kind of off topic, but same thing, I'm going to talk about Paul Skeens. You think about the All-Star game that just happened. Paul Skeens, I think the first inning that he threw, I think he threw 1 splinker, but the rest were all heaters. Like, it was like, hey, I have 5 to 6 pitches, but I'm going to see how good you are. I'm going to throw you my heater.
Yeah.
Everyone knew the heater was coming, right? And he punched out two out of the 3, but like, you talk about him having a dead zone fastball, but his arm angle, his slot, his VAA makes it look completely different, even though if it is dead zone. He's blowing heaters up in the zone because of how the VAA, the approach angle is coming in, to where so many guys don't understand that. They're like, Paul Skeens just threw all heaters. Well, he can, because of the angle that it's coming in. It plays differently than a guy that has a different slot and has a true dead zone fastball.
Absolutely.
So how exactly does remote coaching work? You will have unlimited access to text and email your coach, hop on weekly FaceTime calls, and receive regular mechanical and training updates. Each day, your plan will detail exactly what to do from start to finish, with instructional videos for every single throwing drill, mobility routine, and lifting exercise. Nobody's going to do the work for you, but we can show you the path to get there. It's your career. Let's get to work.
The question is, deception is underrated.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's a great. Yeah, absolutely.
Deception is definitely underrated.
Confused, the hitter confused. It's like, what the heck? Like, that's weird.
It says it's dead zone, but like, why is it getting on me harder? Why is 93 getting on me when it's from a lower angle?
See what we see, Crisel. His slider is not nasty.
Deception.
It looks nasty because from where he throw it. Manea, same thing.
Yeah, he just moved to the other side.
They just way out there, just deception. I bet if they move to the middle or the other side of the rubber, they will get hit back. 100%. So it's just deception is underrated.
Talking about Skeens again one more time. I was with the Pirates when he was going 1-1, and all you hear around the draft was like, he has a dead zone fastball. It's not gonna play. I'm like, 1 is 100, and 1, the deception on it is phenomenal. You guys are only looking at one metric, and luckily the Pirates took him 1-1, and he's just been phenomenal. But like, you have to understand deception is so important. And sometimes, I had a guy this winter, had a shaky season in affiliated ball, goes to winter ball, and he throws 100. Stuff looks really good, and I'm like, dude, I think your deception is off. Like, you open up, the ball comes out of the same angle. It's easy for guys to just move to the side of the rubber. Just started shoving, just because of deception. So,
shout out Jonathan Hernandez.
yes. But like, looking at the whole picture, it's so important. Like, not overstressing, overthrowing, and deception is very, very underrated.
And I think like you saying that you're kind of biased of like it's overrated and underrated, and I think I'm on that same boat because I come from a generation where we didn't have all this fancy stuff. All we had was the eye test. We had the radar gun and the eye test, right? So the eye test would be like, oh man, that's a banger. But if it's still getting hit, you're like, well, man, I'm being told it's a banger, but I'm still giving up knocks on it. What am I doing? So I think it's overrated and underrated because like now, for me, being part of a generation that didn't have all this fancy stuff, I'm now able to blend this stuff to where it's like, okay, hey, if my eye test is telling me that's good,
Information now.
does it line up, right? The confirmation. It's the same thing with mocap. It's like, hey, we see everything that's going on in your delivery, right? But then we have mocap to basically be able to back it up, or if it tells a different story, right? So the way I look at things now is like, when I first started, I was like, man, this stuff is like how do I learn? Like it was a whole different baseball game to me. To me, it didn't feel like baseball. But now I've taken what I had learned, taking all the new things that I'm learning and being able to blend them into the best of both worlds, to where now we can actually line up and see if it's actually, okay, the eye test is giving me this, does this line up with this? So I think it's like overrated, underrated, but bridging the gap is what it truly comes down to.
You mentioned a little bit of old school, a little bit of new school, and sparked this question about, mechanics.
Yes.
Is over obsessing about one specific position in the throw overrated or underrated?
Over, because you want this? I think it's overrated because at the end of the day, like, you look at all the big leaguers that threw in the All-Star game. Last summer, I'd only been at Tread for 6 months. I stood in front of the TV for the All-Star game and literally filmed every single person that threw.
That's good.
Because at the end of the day, there's not one person that throws the exact same. Nobody throws like Tim Lincecum. You can't mimic that. That's Tim Lincecum's anatomy of what he does. Every big leaguer has flaws. Every pitcher has flaws. But there's usually 3 things that they all do efficiently, right? So it's like, it's all about how they get there that means the most. So I think sometimes...
principles.
Exactly. The meat and potatoes,
Yes.
right? I think so many times mechanics get overrated because it's like, oh, you got to check this point, check this point, check this point. No, because I just saw a still photo of Soroka, and he's extending off the back leg. Like, I mean, he's extended. But my man's still throwing 94, 95 mile an hour sinkers. So it's like, okay, if you're still getting to the block, if you're still rotating, if you're still accelerating through the target, like whatever the case may be, like, there's guys that compensate. Big leaguers are elite level compensators to where I think so many guys obsess over the mechanics, or like, what's my back leg doing, or what's this doing? Like, every big leaguer does the meat and potatoes like they're supposed to. And I think that's what sets guys apart. But so many guys get obsessed with, if I don't hit every checkpoint, I'm screwed. My biggest thought on all that is like, your first move sets up the rest of the delivery.
Yeah.
Right? So if your first move's bad, you're probably gonna have a bad throw. Right? So I think sometimes it's overrated.
Yeah, man.
I think it's overrated, because we're trying to, that's what we do here. We coach, and then guys want to just get to these positions. And John said, you can look pretty, but that doesn't mean anything. Right. You can have hip and shoulder separation, like just standing like this, but it had to be intense behind it. It had to be feel of it. There had to be awareness of what you're doing. It had to be, it's more than just the positions, you know what I mean? So I think, like, you said it all. Like, it just...
Yeah. It really throws me off when guys send me a still picture of them, and
It's a still photo.
Yeah, it's like, well, like,
Can do that.
how did you get there, and how did the person you showed me get there?
Exactly.
And, like, what happens after? Like, there's a whole puzzle. And you mentioned compensations. There are guys who have faulty back legs in the big leagues, and they throw hard, but they make up by having a really good spine, a really good arm, right? Let's say guys have a faulty arm, but they make up by having a good hip, right? By having a great block. So, like, understanding that some guys in the big leagues, if you're trying to copy them exactly the same way, you're not gonna be the same because the human anatomy that you have compared to that person are different. The lever, like your levers, are different than that person. If you compare to them and try to do the exact thing that they do, you're not gonna fit into a mold. Your shoes is not the same shoe size I wear, so we can't wear the same shoe. So it's the same thing with mechanics. Like, you have to do the thing, right, that your body allows you to do, obeying by the principles. But if you try to copy specific positions to one specific pitcher alone, you're gonna run into trouble, and that's why I think it's overrated.
I think, and one of the things I do with a lot of my guys is, I don't do a lot of comps, but I do a lot of like, hey, check this out. You guys always give me crap because I use Scooble, right? Scooble throws 100. Yeah, shout out Scooble, man. Like, but the biggest thing is like, you know, he's got an early front side, right? Like, he's got a very lazy front side. But when you look at the bigger picture, even though he's got a lazy front side, he still throws 100.
The arm works.
Right.
The arm works.
Right. So like he compensates for something that, like, you know, we preach, firm front side, all this stuff, but like aesthetically you could look perfect, be in the perfect position, but if you're throwing 82, it don't matter, right? Like,
it's 82.
Like, that's the thing that people don't realize is, like, most of the time when I give my guys breakdowns or you know, feedback, I will usually preface like, hey, I'm not saying throw exactly like this. I'm saying, hey
guys, Willie has to head out. Willie, say
bye, Willie.
Hey, Jesus is underrated.
Yeah.
Amen.
But I think the biggest thing is, like, guys, that when I tell them, I'm like, I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just showing you the principles of what he is doing that is making him really elite.
Absolutely. I think it should be a wrap.
Yeah, I think for you, I think before we wrap it up, I think the biggest thing that you need to do is, like, talk about the strength and conditioning side of it.
Yeah.
Because I think that is your cup of tea. So before we wrap it up, I think you need to, like, kind of preference, like, overrated, underrated with, like, some of that, like, strength stuff in the weight room, because I think that is a very huge component of the baseball world as well.
Yeah. In the weight room, I think what's overrated is over-obsessing about one specific thing. I think, like, everything that's overrated is, like, not only in pitching, but like any other thing in life, it's when you just fixate in one thing alone and you don't train different attributes. The thing with throwing that it makes it so much more complex than anything else is that everything, it's working. Like, everything needs to be, like, you need to be strong, but you need to have a good range of motion too, and you need to be able to sequence those things in a coordinated fashion for the throw to be efficient. So there's a lot more requirements that are, you know, needed for that to occur. If you're a power lifter, you need strength and size. Simple. So you get bigger, and you lift more weight, and you get better. But in throwing, you need to be explosive, you need to be strong, and you have more mobility. So if you over-fixate in a lifting program that only attacks one thing, and you ignore the other qualities that you need, like, let's say I go into a hypertrophy program, and I'm getting bigger, but I'm not doing any sort of strength, I'm not doing any sort of power work, and I'm not training my mobility. Well, I'm neglecting through things that if my body sees I'm not giving effort to those things, I'm just going to lose it, because your body is this perfect machine that saves energy. So if I'm not doing mobility work, if I'm not doing strength work, or I'm not doing power work, your body's like, he doesn't need that, he just wants to get big, let me just make him big and adapt to that certain thing you're giving it to. And then, but you need those things to throw. So just understand, like, in the weight room, trying to do just one fixated thing by not actually focusing on other things you need in the throw, I think is overrated. I think you should have a holistic program that covers all things. There should be an emphasis on what part of the season you are, but you need to cover everything that's needed in the throw, which I think is underrated. Like, guys don't cover everything, like the meat and potatoes, when it comes to physical qualities to be good when you go do the skill training.
Yeah, and I think going off that, like, when I was coming back from my rehab from TOS, like, when you're a bodybuilder, you need compression of the body, right? Like, you need your muscles to pretty much be, like, tight and have that tension all the time, right? Because you're lifting heavy weight, you need to feel it. But I remember, like, one of the big things that when I was coming back from rehab was, like, I need to decompress certain areas. Like, there's certain areas that are so tight and, like, compressed that don't have the range of motion to be able to move smoothly. Like, let's say a scap or my lats, right? Like, I know one thing that you always talk about with your athletes is, like, being able to restore tissue quality, right? if your tissue quality is like beef jerky,
Yeah.
right? Think about like how tough beef jerky is, and then you're trying to go out there and pitch and be fluid, because the pitching mechanics delivery is a fluid, explosive movement pattern, to where if you have so much compression and you're trying to continuously get in these positions, but you're so compressed, it doesn't matter how hard you try, that you can't get in these positions. So that's why I wanted you to allude to like the lifting aspect, of where it's like, yes, we want to build size, we want to build strength, but we also want to have mobility and flexibility, because at the end of the day, like, the pitching delivery is a very quick, fast, explosive movement. If everything is compressed and you can't move fast, it don't matter. Like, you can look great and all jacked in a uniform, but if you don't move well, it don't matter.
100%. You alluded to tissue quality, and that goes in hand with.
I think it's underrated.
Yeah, it's super underrated. It goes in hand to understand like what parts of the body do what during the delivery, and which ones get beat up more. You like when you're throwing, the stuff that decelerates the body. So like your hamstrings, your glutes. So like when it comes to the block, the lats, the scap as a whole, the rotator cuff, all those muscles get beat up when you throw the forearm, the pronator mass, because those are breaking the body. So like they're decelerating the body, so things don't go haywire.
Yeah.
If I don't have a strong rotator cuff, my shoulder's just gonna fly out. So that area needs to work more when throwing to protect me from getting injured. So those get overused, and the tissue quality of those gets lost as you throw more. So when you go in the weight room, you need to understand like, hey, like this specific body parts get overused. I need to make sure I restore the tissue quality there first. And then if I have time, I can make some adaptations to make it stronger. But if you bypass the tissue quality part and you go like, all right, my tissues are already beat up and it's beef jerky, I don't make sure I do any sort of tissue restoration, and I go straight into like make it stronger. Well, making it stronger actually damages the tissue. So you're trying to damage the tissue that's already damaged.
It never has time to recover.
Exactly. So that makes it worse. So it's like just making sure like, hey, when you throw, you're gonna damage tissues, specific ones. Let's make sure we restore that, and if we have enough time, then we make those stronger. So when you go pitch, you have strong and restored tissues. So I think that is very underrated too, where like guys need to understand like what body parts are needed the most to protect me from injury, and making sure that those are in a good state by the time I go throw.
Yeah, and I think going off of that, I'm not a big, strong guy. I was never built, like I was long and lengthy. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I first started lifting heavy, I got really tight, and I brought it up to, I mentioned it to Welly. I had a guy in high school who looked like Welly, never lifted a weight, never did anything, and was this freak athlete. And then he started lifting, and everything kind of got really tight, and he lost his athleticism. But I constantly, will hear my athletes be like, oh, dude, I got after it yesterday, and I'm really sore. So, okay, that's great. You want to be sore. But then now you're going to be trying to go throw and get in these positions when your body is so tight right now. There's no recovery to the tissues. So then, and I just had a conversation with an athlete the other day, is where it's like, this generation always lift. I believe you need to lift, but you also have to have a mobility aspect into it as well, because think about it, like you can go out there and do all these good mobility drills. Like you could do the perfect ones for what your inefficiencies are. But if you're just doing them, but then not building strength in those new in ranges, you're never going to be able to get into them in the delivery in a sense of like, hey, you're working on your hip ER, right? Like you're doing all these stretches, you're doing all these mobility exercises, but if you're not building strength in those new in ranges, your body's just going to go back to what it knows.
End range strengthening.
Exactly.
Underrated as well.
Right. So it's like one of those things to where like guys just think, oh, if I lift heavier, if I lift more, I'm going to get better on the mound. But in reality, you're compressing those tissue qualities to not allow you to actually do what the task at hand is. At hand is throw the baseball really hard. So I think that's why I felt like that was a good way for us to kind of like segment into that, the overrated, underrated, because I think a lot of guys don't understand that, like, hey, yes, we want you to lift heavy, lift hard, but at the end of the day too, like, we have to also be able to move fluidly and have proper mobility, proper tissue quality to access certain ranges that we need in the throw.
Yeah, it's because throwing is so complex. There's so many moving parts going on. You need good ankle mobility, you need good tibial rotation, you need good hip internal and external rotation, you need good hamstring length, you need the adductors to be able to actually lengthen, you need a good lower back, you need a good T-spine mobility, you need a good pec, a lot. So you need everything.
Yeah.
You actually need a good neck, good cervical rotation.
Right.
So if you train and you avoid the efficiency of how all these work, you're gonna have an inefficient body that's gonna be inefficient when it comes to doing the skill of throwing.
And you're gonna constantly be beating yourself in the head of like, I'm doing the work, I'm putting it in, I'm doing everything my coach asked me. Why am I not seeing change? Well, at the end of the day, there is a mental side of it. It's like, shit, I've been getting after it.
Yeah.
I haven't been hitting my mobility the same. And I'm not saying mobility is end all be all, but like at the end of the day, like
Very important.
if you have ranges that you didn't have before and you can build strength in them, that's what allows adaptation, allows changes to then be shown in the throw.
When to finish it off here, when I was learning about improving mobility and why mobility is important, somebody explained it this way to me: the more mobility you have, the more movement solutions you have. And that is what you want to have when you go learn this skill. If you have less mobility, you have less options. So if I have a really restricted pec and have a really restricted hamstring, I have only one way of doing this skill. And if I'm off that, it's going to be a shitty one. That's why you see guys who are like, usually the tighter guys are like, they throw 90 and then they drop to 87, 86 within a throw. And you're like, what happens? Like, well, you got it right that one time because
you synced everything up.
Yeah, but then the thing that your bandwidth of error is so small because your body's so restricted, it makes it difficult to be repeated. And then you simply improve the range of motion and the strength at those end ranges. Well, now you have more options that even though you're slightly off mechanically by a little bit, your body's still able to self-organize to make up for the error you made because you have the tissues that are able to do that.
Yeah, so 100%. No, I think that's a good way to end it, but I felt like for you, being really good at what you are good at, and that's everything, but like in a sense of like just being able to explain that to our viewers, because at the end of the day, like I think it's one of those things that like a lot of guys don't understand. They're like, God, I don't want to do my mobility day. I just want to get into myself. But it's like, in the end of the day, like your body needs oil. It needs that lube to be able to do things that we're asking. So I think that's something that I wanted to make sure that we talked about in a sense, because like our views are going up, but and our viewers are liking what we're talking about. But I think at the end of the day, like what we're saying to you isn't just to like, oh, hey, do this, try this. It's like there's a reason behind the madness. So I think it was really good for you to kind of go in depth to that as well.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching again. If you've made it to this part of the video and you haven't liked, comment, or subscribe, because there's two types of people in this world: subscribers and non-subscribers. Don't be a non-subscriber. Make sure you subscribe, help the channel out, help us out, kind of continue doing this to help you guys out a lot more. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.